What if justice did not knock, but waited in silence? What if its shape was not a gallows, nor a flame, nor the stroke of whip, but a pair of hands and a rope wound slow? Before we step inside this house, tell us in the comments where you're watching from, and subscribe to join this community of witnesses. The parlor organ stood restless. Keys chipped, one ivory cracked down its center. Pipes breathed dust, echo of hymn still clinging faint when wind rattled shutters. Oil clung to iron pedal joints. A smell sharp as rust and worship fused. Storm winds pressed against shutters, straining as though they too longed to enter. The organ was not only instrument, it was altar and sentence. On its wood had been laid prayers by the Heir, his fingers pounding rough, chords struck as command. Each note not hymn, but humiliation, each chord a lash across silence. But silence has its own sound. It presses, it builds. It becomes weight heavier than chords. Samuel knew this. He listened as silence pressed itself into corners, thicker than storm air. He inhaled it and held it as breath. The organ pipes muttered when drafts crossed them, releasing faint and unintended hymn. To some, it startled. To Samuel, it testified. One day, the organ would not sing at the Heir's demand, but sigh at justice's placement. What if an organ's wood supported more than music? What if justice could be lain across its keys like offering? What if silence itself outran him? In Alabama, 1850, houses rose not only from wood but from hierarchy. The parlor stood grand. Its windows stretched tall, though rains blistered their trim. Hinges groaned with each opening, swollen metal grinding in pain. No door moved quietly here. Each sound announced presence, compelled witness. Inside, gas lamps hissed low, glow spilling amber-up portrait faces with oily skin. On desks lay ledgers swollen with ink, spines warped. Bibles stacked beside them, scripture and accounting bound equal, one sanctifying the other. Both weighed near the same. Rain tapped steady at windows, condensation sliding down panes like beads of sweat. Each sound entered silence, heavy as cloth. The floors bent from years, warped wood, releasing scent of damp earth. Boards moaned when boots crossed, overseer boots, Heir's boots. Every sound was record. Hinge, step, whisper. Architecture became instrument of power, parlor tuned for performance of cruelty. Garlands of hymn, portraits, lamps, all staged illusions. In truth, Heir held tang of oil and sweat, presence of iron nails, bleeding rust. This house, clothed in hymn, smelled faintly of the soil it stood upon. The ground remembers footprints pressed, bodies moved, names reduced to figure and ink. Neighbors said the house shone. Samuel knew the house trembled, with its creaking beams, its swollen hinges, its floors echoing, voice of command. Amid storm, the parlor organ waited, absorbing each sound into its silence. Hinges, rain, lamp hiss, ink blot. These noises wove a hymn darker than any played. Samuel was bound to quiet labors. He trimmed lamps, groomed horses, carried water across warped floors. Work ordinary, motion deliberate, voice nearly absent. His stillness unsettled. Some mistook it for defeat. But his stillness was shield, weight, eternity folded into breath. Cloth folded at his waist absorbed sweat endlessly. His gaze met lamplight often, steady and sober, never wavering. Darkness revealed embers reflected small in his eye, red points that refused to disappear. He counted everything. Steps to barn, hours between commands, breaths while air coughed, indignities endured, names forgotten, sorrows buried within. Samuel tallied them in silence. Each cruelty a line written in ledger of fleshless paper, scored on his memory. He never protested, never cried outrage, but every humiliation entered into his inward book. With each count, silence pressed harder, not breaking but building into substance. Resolution grew disguised as stillness. Samuel's watch was not idle. His stillness guarded, his stillness remembered, his stillness sharpened into possibility. What others mistook as quiet was ledger balancing, breath tallying until scale leaned. The heir was young, but cruelty performed old. His punishments rehearsed, orchestrated to pattern. He mocked silence, forcing it into spectacle. He would seat himself at organ in parlor, pounding random chords loud before punishment delivered. Each strike of cane preceded by jarring note, a hymn twisted into mockery, a chord, then blow. He played cruelty like music. Boots ground against rug, scraping sound into memory. His tobacco breath spread bitter fog over room. Silence never permitted. Silence broken intentionally with his performance. Every humiliation was liturgy, every act staged. He sought not only obedience but artful control. Samuel knew because he listened. He learned his rhythms, mapped his cruelty. Patterns, if repeated enough, become predictable. Predictability is weakness. Samuel still tallied noise and humiliation. Silence built opposite score, one day to erupt wordless across Parlor. The organ was both altar and accomplice. Each slam would one day breathe different hymn. Storm nights grew stranger. Organ pipes sighed with no hand pressing, faint moans seeping from chamber, sounding eerily like hymn half remembered. Drafts licked pipes through shutters drawn tight. Where silence should reign, uncanny voice spoke. In the ledger room, pages smudged damp. Tallies blurred. Numbers bled into each other as if refusing to hold truth. The ink would not dry. Margins blackened with smears that no quill could correct. Shutters cracked hard at night, slamming through breeze slight. Hinges shrieked. Servants paused, listening. Each slam timed like warning. They whispered of ghosts, of ground unsettled, of justice creeping silent. Samuel said nothing, but he heard. The organ muttered without touch, pipes crooning strange sighs at night shifts. Servants swore they heard names inside its breath. Samuel waited, still, adding one more tally each time pipes sang unbidden. The heir's decline came gradual. Nosebleeds on mornings, cloth pressed discreet to lip. He staggered unsteady with liquor, coughs grown harsh. Servants noted falter, laughter weakening. Physicians summoned in storm. They entered proud, polished canes tapping, words booming, diagnoses offered, miasma rising, swamp fever, drainage of bile. Remedies cruel and ineffective, bloodletting, powders sharp, tonic sour. Nothing ended decline. Air grew pallid, breath ragged. Stare creaked heavy at night as he stumbled to bed. Lamp guttered low as he coughed, smoke curling, silence broken only by spasm of chest. Samuel counted intervals between coughs, 4, now 6, now endless pause. Ledger of silence wrote what doctors could not. Neighbors muttered, drink, vice, curse of weather. Words shifted like smoke, but Samuel interpreted pattern pure. These afflictions not chance, these afflictions omens. Silence explained more than doctors did. His fate was sealed separate from physician. Ground remembers, silence gathered. The storm rolled as stone. Night skies ripped with wind, shutters pounding walls, hinges screeching in rhythm. Rain lashed panes like fists. It was our chosen. Samuel readied tokens, rope coiled in cloth, scratched tough against hand. From stables, iron buckle broken hidden in pocket, weight cold anchor. Hymn page torn quiet, folded into palm. Kerchief dampened round neck to mask breath. Every token memory, rope work, buckle, burden. Hymn, mockery reversed. Cloth, sweat endured, all marked time. Shutters pounded like drums, thunder-joined organ pipes humming by draft. Hymns echoed faint from Easter days past, repeating in memory. Storm outside joined silence inside to weave vow. Samuel breathed deep, counting beats of heart. 1, 2. He measured until body steady. The air drunk on cruelty sat swollen at Parlor. The organ waited. Night pressed silence thick as cloth. This was threshold. Silence hardened into decision. Tokens sealed covenant. Ledger tallied. The storm fixed the hour. Air slouched at Parlor organ, hands staggering across keys, striking discord loud. Chords slammed random, hymn broken into mockery. His boots scraped rug, tobacco fog heavy. Samuel entered quiet, rope coiled. Silence moved with him, steps soundless, breath measured. He counted inwardly, each step number. 1. Hinge creaked faint. 2. Window rattled storm. 3. Organ key struck sickly. He stood close now, rope unwound, drawn taut. Smell of hemp, burn of friction warming. Air looked back once, too late. Rope passed from hand to hand, tightened sure. Breath slammed short, cord cut, abrupt. Organ note struck once sharp, then ceased into silence thick as cloth. Samuel's eyes. Steady, count continued within. Inhale, exhale, tally. Rope constricted, breath gone. Silence pressed heavier than rope. Nothing shouted, only ritual complete. When it ended, there was no triumph, only weight. Samuel eased rope slack and pulled, still body calm. He lifted carefully. Heavy, not in flesh, but in meaning. Boots dragged once over rug, silence louder than thunder above. The organ waited. Samuel placed the air flat across keys, chest pressing ivory, head bent back against pipes. Keys sank from weight, producing single sigh of chord. Noise brittle, broken, as though organ protested, but also testified. Cloth rasped wood as limb shifted, settling form into tableau sacramental. Rope coil hung slack on floor. Iron pedal groaned when foot struck during lay. Window rattled at gust, storm thrashing panes. Samuel stood, breath steady, inward count finished. Body lay where hymns once demanded. Ledger balanced, not in ink, but in silence pressing entire Parlor. The organ had been altar to cruelty. Tonight it became altar to reckoning. Morning exposed damage yet concealed truth. Parlor shut, visitors muttering different fables. Seizure, storm fright, accident. None dared voice rope or rebellion. Ledger marked air as deceased, blot of ink wide as wound. No mention of Samuel. Court convened briefly, dismissed quicker. Rain streaked courthouse stone, bell tolled muffled, voices retreating. Safer to presume silence, better to leave ledger neat. Authorities erased by omission. In quarters, hush swallowed words. They did not confess, nor speculate. Silence itself shielded and suffocated. Yet ground held memory beneath boots. Years layered dust. Organ refused play, pipes groaned alone at night, wheezing hymn without hand. Hymn pages in attic browned, one smudged with ash. Archivist scribbled note, 1850, Heir dead upon organ. Later struck by editor, but margin stain persisted faint. Children in fields rhymed, he fell across the keys, silence in the hymn. Adults hushed them quick, terror sharper. Around hearths, tale whispered, sometimes of ghostly chord sounding when storms surged, sometimes of servants' rope. No single detail agreed, yet silence proved stronger than denial. Memory lived when record denied. Reckoning does not close. It lingers. Not pronounced by jury, not signed in ink. It inhabits silence, pressing against shutters when storm arrives, moving organ keys when drafts creep, heavy as cloth laid over chest. Samuel's fate unnoted. He vanished into hush of history. Yet organ endured, parlor heavy, ground remembering storm-soaked night. Justice here was not revenge, it was ritual, stillness embodying power. Silence itself became voice. Across years, reckoning survives not through testimony, but through presence that refuses to leave. When shutters creak, when organ pipes sigh without touch, when silence feels too complete, reckoning wakes again.